Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks. The 9.14 update test server was just released and I'm going to review all of the new content so you can see what to look forward to in patch 9.14. Patch 9.14 will be very low on content. There are no new tanks that are available, at least outside of the super test, and also no new maps unless you play the Rampage game mode, and then the Paris map will be coming back into the game. There are two key changes that will come with patch 9.14, and that is in the vehicle motion physics, which is being completely reworked, and the sound engine has been completely replaced. Now, these physics changes are nothing new. I've done 3 videos on this in the last year, and it was literally February 2015 that we first got to see a taste of full flipping physics in World of Tanks. So firstly, just for those of you who have not seen those videos or experienced the 3 previous physics tests, look at what it was like in the first place. Look at how the AMX 1390 is sliding around. It's almost as if there is practically no ground resistance. It felt like you were skating around on an ice rink, and it just didn't quite feel right. Take a look at how this IS-3 slips and slides with the handbrake on these cobblestones. It was very underwhelming, really. It was interesting, very interesting to see how they wanted to develop the game, but it was clear that a year ago it wasn't in the right place. So what do we have to look forward to? Well, now you can sacrifice your speed to be able to gain increased traverse speed in the corner, and also, as we can see, there's a lot more drifting in the game. So there is the addition of a handbrake in the game, or should we say locking the tracks. What you just saw there was a circle without locking the tracks or using the handbrake that will be automatically assigned to your spacebar. Now let's see what happens when we lock the tracks. The tank turns so much faster, but you have to sacrifice speed to be able to gain that increased traverse speed. That can be very useful if there's a tank that's behind you, or if you need to have an emergency stop. Maybe you see a Jagdtiger pop up in front of you and you need to make a quick evasive maneuver to be able to get out of his way. Now, it should be noted that this mechanic is not available for tank destroyers and self-propelled guns for balancing reasons. The last thing that you want to see is a Foch 155 be able to do a 180-degree turn very quickly to be able to put his full magazine into you. As we can also see, you can go up the slopes far more easily now. Previously, there were almost hidden invisible walls that prevented you from mounting up some of the terrain. So this should be interesting for light tanks, especially medium tanks as well, that do have that engine power and the ground resistances to be able to get into positions. Just be careful though, because as you can see, you can take your tracks off very quickly, and the added speed that you thought that you might gain by not having to traverse around the mound, well, that's gonna certainly be made up for if you take your tracks off and rendered immobile. So this is a complete rewrite of the motion engine. I watched a wargaming video on this to be able to explain some of the things that they apparently have done. So there's going to be the option, as we've talked about, to lose speed to be able to gain increased traverse speed. There is now a momentum calibration in the game. For light vehicles, it makes them more responsive. And one of the main things that I found is that it's very important to release the accelerator, or your W key, when you're turning if you want to make sharp turns. And one thing that I should also mention is, as it has been for the last year on the physics test servers, you are going to be able to flip your tank completely over. Here I am with a selection of players and tanks from my Twitch TV community. A big thank you to all of you guys for helping out with this. How about we flip 30 tanks all at the same time on El Haloof? So that is something that you're going to have to worry about. Hopefully you won't have any top tier tanks on your team accidentally flipping themselves over. And remember, in patch 9.14, every map is Derpenberg. So while the physics changes that you have seen on the 9.14 test server are pretty much identical to the last physics test server, which was only last December, there is something that Wargaming has done exceedingly well for 9.14 compared to the last physics/sound changes test server, and that is a complete revamp of the audio in World of Tanks. And so let's check out the sounds. Listen to that Comet engine purring. Tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. When I first heard it, I thought, oh, this is a bit different. But frankly, now that I've played around on the test server for a few hours, I think that it is more immersive for me personally. Now, since the last test server, Wargaming have made a list of changes, apparently according to our feedback, which is always nice of them. They put a focus on big guns go boom, and more on that later. Just hear the Comet as it's firing its 77mm here. Annoying sounds, in the distant especially, have been reduced. Also, there is now a notification when you get spotted. Did you hear that? That is the Sixth Sense spotting indication. It sounds as if someone's taking a picture with a camera, or I guess if you're turning on some night vision goggles. That is the new Sixth Sense sound that everyone will be hearing when they get spotted. One thing that is returning in patch 9.14 is the critical hit bell. If you've been playing World of Tanks for a few years, you will have heard it before. It tells you when you have critically hit your opponents, pretty straightforward. They've also apparently reduced the impact of long-range sound that was distracting. New for the 9.14 test server, Wargaming has also returned the different sounds that the different shell types make. That means that heat is still going to sizzle. Engine sounds have also been made more meaty and more powerful compared to the old sound test server. And this is completely possible because they have changed to a new audio system called Audio Kinetic Wise, which enables Wargaming to have a greater separation of artistic and informative sounds. This also allows World of Tanks to run the sound calculations on a separate CPU core on your computer. So if you're using a multi-core processor, even a quad-core, then you should get quite a nice performance boost in 9.14. But I know that you guys really just want to hear big guns going boom in World of Tanks, right? One thing that is very nice as well is that the sound of the ricochets are just so much better. Let's put the IS-7 to the test on Malinovka versus 29 tanks. So without further ado, this is what an IS-7 sounds like when it is blocking 30,000 damage. Sounds are different inside the sniper mode as well. Oh god, there's always one, right? Had to be a WTL V100. Well, I don't know what you personally think, but for me, I really enjoy the new sounds. I think those ricochets are absolutely fantastic. You feel like you are getting hit by a giant slug of metal. I was very skeptical in December when they released the previous sound and physics test server, but I feel like in 9.14, they've hit the nail on the head here. But to show you what this feels like in a game, let's have a round in the FV215B183. So as you're waiting to start the game, you hear that purr of the British Rolls-Royce Meteor engine.
Time to roll out.
When you put the foot down, I do feel like it sounds rather meaty. Well, we're certainly around some behemoths here, a Type 5 Heavy, an E100 and a Jagdpanzer E100. But I feel like it's the sound of our own engine that we can hear very clearly. Now, one thing that's interesting is that there are very distinct sounds as you load in the shell. You can see it fully loading in there. So you get an audio tell just before your round is going to be ready to fire. Also, listen to the difference when you go over the concrete there. I think I'll go back onto the concrete in a second. You hear the slight crackle as you go over the roads. Go over more roads in a second. Here we go. So as you go over the cobblestones, you can clearly hear what surface you're on. Also, knocking down trees just feels a lot more rewarding now, which is something that you should try and avoid doing in World of Tanks. So let's see if we can line up our first shot. Grinding into a tank there, that Waffenträger Alpha 100. Everything just feels a lot more immersive, and I bet you the Wargaming wants to hear that as well. Oh, there's an FV215B183 on the enemy team. Can we pen him? Yes, we can. And there you go, you heard the crit bell, and there's the 6th sense indication as well. So as I mentioned earlier, 6th sense going off sounds like you're activating your night vision goggles. Not that I have any, or have ever used them. I guess that just comes from television, right? But it works quite well, and it's nice to have that audio tell when you do get spotted. Let's see if we can hear that crit bell again as we fire at this FV215B183. So you hear the ding, that means that you have critically damaged your opponents. Just listen as you do put in that shell. You just get that little bit more immersion. You feel like, yeah, I'm ready to fire. And put one right through the lower plate of the E100 there. Just listen to the... You feel like you're in more of a combat with all these sounds. And if you've got a good pair of headphones like I do, then you really can differentiate between shots that are in the distance on your left, shots that were immediately on your left. And that certainly can be very useful. Now we're looking for a shot on this IS-4. Big guns go boom indeed. So now listen for the heat round. This E100 is about to fire a heat round. There's the Batchat firing a heat round into us. We can hear a sizzle, and listen to the sizzle from the E100. So you can tell if somebody is firing premium ammunition at you. Next, I want you guys to hear a very meaty ricochet from a Jagdpanzer E100. Let's see what happens when a 170mm shell hits your tank. Oh my word, that sounds absolutely awesome. Lots of people on the Twitch stream in the comments getting very excited about that one. Obviously, that is a rather large shell ricocheting off your tank. Hopefully, you're not going to expose yourself to Jagdpanzer E100s too much to try and recreate that. Just listen to the sound when we grind into this Object 140. Everything just feels that bit more meaty. And I think it's a style that really works with the game. Everything else that is being added is pretty minor. Frankly, it is the physics changes and the sound revamp that makes 9.14 what it is. There are a bunch of new tanks as well, but they're only available for super testers. I might do a video about these tanks separately, even not being able to have access to them. And Wargaming continue to roll out high-definition tanks. 24 more vehicles are reworked, which should see your client size grow even more. But if you're a fan of any of these vehicles, maybe a few IS-6 and E25 drivers out there, or even the Foch 155, you've got a bit of eye candy to look forward to. Also, the T28 prototype now has a roof over the turret, which means that it can use improved ventilation, and of course its model looks quite a lot different. And finally, as mentioned earlier, Ravaged Capital, aka the Paris map, has been added to the Rampage game mode, and also Sacred Valley has been completely reworked. But more on that at a later date. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, or maybe it was just useful to you. If it was, please do consider giving it a like down below. It really helps the channel out. And let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the physics and the sound changes coming in World of Tanks. And also, I'm going to be putting another poll in the more info icon in the top right hand corner of your screen. Let me know if you like or dislike the new sounds coming in patch 9.14. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.